Sputnik 1 was the first satellite to orbit the Earth. It was launched by Russia in 1957. Shortly after World War II, Russia and the US began looking into orbital technology. Sputnik 1 beat the US and triggered the space race, as the US saw Sputnik 1 as a sign that Russia had made a significant technological leap past the United States. This was seen as a national security threat, which spurred the US to invest more in space technology. Explorer 1, the US response to Russia, launched February 1, 1958. It used the Jupiter C rocket developed by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It featured many scientific instruments, the primary one being a cosmic ray detector designed to measure radiation in Earth's orbit. After more than 58,000 orbits, Explorer 1 entered Earth's atmosphere and burned up on March 31, 1970. Yuri Gagarin was a Soviet cosmonaut and the first man to enter space as well as orbit the Earth. He was born in 1934 and graduated from the Soviet Air Force Cadet School in 1957, at 23. Gagarin's spacecraft, Vostok 1, launched April 12, 1961 and landed around 2 hours later after making one complete orbit of Earth. The US responded with Alan Shepard as the first American in space, although he did not orbit. Apollo 11 launched on July 16, 1969, and until its return, was constantly broadcast and watched around the world. It utilized the Saturn V launch vehicle in a significantly accurate launch. On July 20th, Apollo 11 became two spacecraft, the Columbia piloted by Michael Collins, and the Eagle lander, occupied by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, both of whom stepped foot on the lunar surface. Important is the fact that this was only the first manned moon landing, as other unmanned spacecraft had landed on the moon previously. The Skylab space station entered orbit on May 14, 1973. It was the first step in a plan to establish long-term manned orbital craft. Like Apollo 11, Skylab used a Saturn V rocket to enter orbit, whose third stage carried the station and its crew. It suffered from a lack of resources but was able to conduct meaningful research while it was manned. It utilized the Apollo telescope mount, which was used to observe the sun's electromagnetic spectrum. Over its lifespan, it hosted three three-man crews. On July 11, 1979, it entered the atmosphere and broke up over the Indian Ocean. The Columbia, a reusable space shuttle that first launched in 1981, launched again for the 28th time with a crew of 7 and scientific instruments with a focus on testing the microgravity environment of space. The space shuttle in and of itself was an important step in sustainable space exploration, as fewer resources were expended by reusable craft, allowing for larger and more complicated missions. But it became more significant on the 28th re-entry, when it broke up over Texas on January 16, 2003. Killing all 7 crew members. It then became the second American space disaster following 17 years after the destruction of the Challenger. The ISS, while not the first international space station, was and remains the most significant. It was assembled in low Earth orbit largely by the US and Russia. It began as an American effort, authorized by President Reagan. In the 90s, the project expanded international involvement. After the US and Russia agreed to build one single station instead of 2 separate ones, it began assembly in 1998 and was operational that year. Both countries and others have added to the station due to its modular nature. Much of the early focus of research aboard the ISS was the study of the long-term effects of a zero-gravity environment on people and other things. It continues to research to this day after it became fully operational in May 2009. Now hosting a 6-man crew. The future of space travel is easily predictable due to the public nature of space travel plans. NASA plans to send humans to Mars by the 2030s, and on Exploration Mission 1, Orion will go thousands of miles beyond the Moon on a 3-week, manned mission. As well as this, many present and future space endeavors focus on unmanned research, as the priority following the Columbia and Challenger disasters has shifted to safety, instead of being the first country to put somebody somewhere. The future's looking good for space travel.